Hello, Las Vegas. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Golf at the Park, Angel Park Golf Club's weekly interview show. Want to thank everybody, like we do every week, for subscribing, first off, liking the videos, and commenting. I've been saying it every week. The comments, if you throw some comments, we pick the best one, or sometimes there's only one comment. I'll reach out to you, and we'll get you a free bucket of balls, or some free rounds on Cloud9, that type of stuff. So we encourage you to do that. This week's guest on Golf at the Park is an old friend of mine. He's actually worked at Angel Park. We're going to find out how long, off and on. And he's the golf coach at Palo Verde High School now. And we're going to learn some fun things today. So Justin, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited. And the way we start is right at the beginning. How were you introduced to the game of golf?
Well, my dad taught himself how to play golf just at small, like I'm from rural South Dakota. So when he learned to play, it was at a much smaller place than I'm even from. He learned to play in like the Lake Preston, DeSmet area, which is the far eastern side of South Dakota, very small, less than 1,000 people, I think. There might be 1,000 people, but kind of learned it on like a little 9-hole muni course.
He did.
And then as I got older, like 8 to 10 or whatever, like I'd go with him, I'd pull the pin, I'd do those kinds of things with him while he was out. It's just kind of time to spend with Dad and time for him to be outside, right? So I'd say I probably got my first like set of like learning clubs and like somewhere between first and third grade. I remember it happened when we lived in Minnesota for like 3 years, and I remember it happened when we were there. So I kind of picked it up a little bit there. When I was in fourth grade, we moved to a town in south central South Dakota called Winter, South Dakota.
Is it any bigger?
It's a little bit bigger. It had about 3,500 people.
Still very small.
Yeah. So we have, but it has a little 9-hole course to it. Awesome, very fun course. I love that course. And that's pretty much where I learned how to golf, and that's where I had the most interaction with it. Probably didn't take it as seriously as I probably could have taken it until probably the summer between my junior and senior years, where I actually like picked up I could actually do something fairly good with this. Like I do like little junior things, like camps and stuff, not like junior golf like they have here where you go and you do events, but like.
So were you playing any other sports?
I played basketball growing up. I did Little League baseball for a little while, not very good at that. Tried football for a year. I love football, just not good at it. Love to watch it.
I played football for exactly 1 year for the same reason.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. Awesome. Kudos to everybody that can actually do it and stick with it. But it just wasn't me.
So at golf, you decide that you can play pretty good around middle of high school. Mm-hmm. Do you try to get on the team? Do you end up playing for your high school?
I do wind up playing. So freshman through senior year, I was on the golf team.
So you were on all 4 years, but you really started taking it seriously after your sophomore year.
Right. And then so as that kind of gets going, like I was kind of in rotation. Like I wasn't necessarily like on like gets to go to tournaments like varsity roster, probably until my junior year as far as consistency goes. I think I made one my sophomore year, but we had a couple of really good upperclassmen that were pretty solid ahead of me, and then I had probably one or two others in my class that were pretty decent that they had a chance to kind of do it. And then I had a couple that were a year younger than me that were really solid. So it was kind of a battle and shuffle type of thing to kind of get qualifying for the rounds and everything. So, but I think that was probably for the better. Because up to that point, like I said, I didn't really take it as seriously until I saw kind of what I could do when I started to kind of grow into frame, right? So kind of get going and kind of feel where it's like, man, I can actually do this pretty good when I'm actually focused at trying to do good at it, as opposed to just coming out here and feeling like I'm supposed to be out here and it's just the sport that I'm doing right now and it's the thing I'm supposed to do. And then it just kind of, the more I got better at it, the more I started to enjoy it. and being out with my dad a lot doing it. So starting to get where that connection starts happening a little bit better helped a ton. It just kind of encouraged me to want to be out there all the time. Then it became, I'd rather be there than pretty much anywhere else. So
that's the way it normally goes.
Yeah.
So small schools tend to, because I went to a couple in junior high, to travel or to play other schools. You have to travel, right?
Yeah.
So I'm guessing, what was that like? And did you have to go far? And I know you said you didn't get to go all the time, but
Right.
what was that like?
It's different because a golf team is smaller than every other team, right? So you have like 5 people that are going, and
So you're just in a minivan?
so we're just in a minivan, just
Yep.
sitting there. You go to a convenience store on the way out, and you grab them, like a Mountain Dew and a couple bags of chips or something like that, and you head out. We had some trips that were 45 minutes away. We had some trips that were 3 to 3.5 hours there, and then another 3 hours back.
That's crazy.
So it was, the closest one we had was, I'd say it's probably about that 45-minute trip. We had a couple that were kind of in that circle, which was nice. Those 3-hour trips were awesome, though. But we always made them day trips, right? So you would drive up there early in the morning, do the golf thing, drive back, be back in the evening, and then next day you're probably at school because it's rarely on a Friday when golf courses are able to do that kind of thing. So,
Tell me about your favorite memory about a tournament in high school. Do you have that round where you were proud of and you were really excited when you were finished with it? Did you have one really really solid showing?
I'd say probably senior year I wound up qualifying for state. And I think after my regionals round, I felt really good about it because it wasn't necessarily, I can't even remember what the number was that I actually scored to actually qualify, but I know I made it pretty comfortably, and it was one of the first rounds that I kind of going for something wasn't pressing the whole time. Like I just went out and I was just like, if I make it, awesome. If I don't, that'll be a bummer.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm not too worried about that. I'm just going to go. I've been playing pretty well this last week or so I'm just going to go. So, I stayed with that the whole time, and I felt really, really good about it after, and qualified for state. Didn't do so great at state, but at the same time, I didn't keep that same mindset from regionals going into state, and you press in a situation.
Regionals was your big event. That's fun, and that's good. You had to play well to get there. So I'm assuming, hopefully this isn't insulting, that you're not looking to play golf at college.
No.
So tell us about how you choose to go to college, where you went.
So I went to South Dakota State, which is in Brookings, South Dakota. And a big part of that is just because it's really close to where I told you where like my dad came from, the smaller town. Like that's originally where I came from too. But that's where my grandparents on both my mom and dad's side lived. I still had a ton of family in that area. It was a very familiar area. Plus, it's a really good school. So go to South Dakota State, half hour to 45-minute drive, maybe more like an hour, to see my grandparents and everything when I get a chance to, get to spend some time with them. And yeah, like the golf thing in college, like it was pretty clear that wasn't going to be my path, but at the same time, it was one of those where I was at least around a couple of people that were kind of within their practice squad and stuff, so I got to kind of hear about some of the stuff that went on, and it sounded like it was pretty cool. But
so you were playing still to enjoy it and as a release from school?
Yeah, the Brookings, South Dakota had they've got a couple courses there in its actual like township area, and then there's a bunch of like little 9-hole courses in the area, and there's a couple 18-hole courses. It's not far from Sioux Falls, so it's actually pretty close to a pretty good batch of probably 7 to 10 that I can think of. So there's a lot of courses in the area you can actually go and play and keep it pretty available. Lucked out that a lot of the people that I met right away at college actually just so happened to also like to go golfing, and not really seriously. Like they didn't have aspirations to go and play or become a teacher of it or go work at a course or anything like that. It was one of those where they just like 95% of other, probably like 98% or 99% of other golfers in the world is just They like the game and they go and they take it out.
Do you have a favorite course from South Dakota that you played?
Oh man, I love the course we played state on. Was a bummer that I didn't play well at it because I really do love that course.
What was it?
Meadowbrook in Rapid City. And then there's actually the Brookings Country Club is awesome, and actually Edgebrook is another course that they have right there. It's their more public course. It's right along the interstate, but it's super accessible. It's very fun. Probably those. There's a couple down in the Sioux Falls area that are a lot of fun. I mean, of courses back home that I love to go play though. The last couple of years we've gone. A couple of my buddies from here have come up to South Dakota with me.
We're going to get to them because I know some of those guys.
And we wound up going on a golf trip. And there's a course just south of where my parents live now, and it's in Valentine, Nebraska. It's called the Prairie Club, and it's incredible. It's so cool. It's got two 18-hole courses. It's semi-private, and what they do is they have public play on one course, and then they have private play on the one.
Oh,
on the
that's
other course.
interesting.
So, like, if it's today, and they do that, so you're playing. There's the Dunes course, and I just blanked on the other one.
That's okay.
The Pines course.
Oh, there you go.
There's the Dunes course and the Pines course. And so say the Dunes course is the private one. You don't get to play it that day. If you're able to stay there, you have lodging and things there. So if you wanted to stay overnight, you can actually go and you can play it so that they flip it. So whichever one you didn't get to play the one day, you can play it the next day. And the one you just played becomes the private one.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's actually, it gives a lot of accessibility to a lot of the people coming in to go golf. And they have great deals as far as just you pay one price and then you play a ton. You pretty much it's like an all-you-can golf buffet.
That's really cool. I love that setup. How do you end up coming to Vegas?
So, South Dakota State, I study history. I get certified in education, go through the whole program, and in '05 is when I wound up coming out here to teach. And that's because what wound up happening is that was the time out here that everything was just blowing up. Like everything was building like super fast. Tons of new schools, people coming in from everywhere, teacher shortage, so they needed to hire teachers like crazy. So that's when they were offering like the $2,000 signing / moving bonus and all that. So my best friend from high school, his dad actually lives out here, and he was going to wind up moving out here also. He went to college in the same side of the state as I did, but way further south. But we would wind up hanging out like at least once a month, if not every.
Yeah, that's pretty often.
Or something. Yeah,
not being close.
Yeah, so we talked about it with him, and he was planning on coming out. He actually did. He's out here, and he works as one of the city attorneys, and I knew he was going to be out here. And the bigger thing was trying to make sure, like, so when I went to this teaching job fair, all of these other school districts are there from around the country, right? And Clark County School District is there. I knew I wanted to go and talk to them. A couple other places like Seattle would have been cool. Phoenix, Charlotte, North Carolina, I looked at that. The Rapid City school area, just in case I wanted to stay a little bit more local. And I had family that lives in the Rapid City area too. Love it out there. The Black Hills are awesome. But yeah, so I knew my friend Matt, I knew he was moving out here. And so the bigger thing is get done with that job fair, and I meet up with my parents, and I still remember. So the sell is like, I think I kind of want to move to Vegas.
That might have, for their age and demographic and region, that might have scared them a little bit.
Mom was like, "Are you sure?" And Dad was like, "You need to move to Vegas."
I love that.
Yeah, because I think part of it is knowing that at the time they're planning on moving out here at some point anyway, and I think they are still planning on moving out here at some point. But I have a niece and a nephew now that I didn't have a niece and a nephew at that point, so them wanting to be by their grandchildren is what they wanted to be. So can't blame them for that.
Sure.
We definitely want them to be there for that. So hopefully at some point they decide they can come out here, and that's kind of where we'll go with that. But yeah, the selling point of it was pretty quick as to, I want to move out to Vegas. I want to do that. And and very quickly being encouraged, hey, while you're out there, you should probably find a golf course job. It's like, yeah, you're probably right.
That's smart. So you come here. Let's shout out your first school you worked at, because we like to cover local schools.
Yeah, so I started at Fremont Middle School, which downtown area, it's St. Louis Avenue and Maryland Parkway, just across the street from where Bishop Gorman's campus used to be.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yep. I don't believe it's there anymore. I think
No,
it got
they
torn
moved.
down.
They're way
Well,
out southwest.
I know Gorman moved, but I think Fremont I think got torn down.
Oh,
It was made into a professional development school there for a little bit, but yeah. So I started at Fremont. Teach there for a few years. Awesome community. Great parents, great kids. Care about their education. They're all about it.
do you already have a golf job at that point?
I do.
Is your first one here?
Yep. Yeah.
That's cool. So what year was that?
So I started teaching in August of 2005, and I started working in at Angel Park here in April of 2006. So I've been here since then, with the exception of like a little period there where I just wasn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been here for. I mean, if it keeps on going at the pace it's going, it would wind up being me just being here until I'm not teaching anymore, and then probably after, just depending, because free golf is awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Free golf is the reason most people want to work at a golf course.
Right.
Let's talk about your early days working at Angel Park, because I know then it's changed, but back then the guys were all. I think the guys are all still really tight, but you've grown out of that, and there's an age gap and all those things. Tell us about the crew you worked with, and what you liked about that, and what that was like.
Yeah, so like, I think something about that job kind of makes that grouping work. Like, you're just around each other all the time, and you kind of have to talk to each other to help out with something all the time, or it's really slow because it's super hot or it's super cold depending on the season, and you're not really doing much of anything except for just kind of waiting for something to go do. So you're still there with your friends and you're still sitting there talking. So it's either you're cooperating a whole lot or you get a whole lot of hangout time. So sometimes there's an in-between, but just perfect golf season, right? So like, yeah, like the people down there right now they're awesome. Like, you can tell that they have a really good close thing going, which is fun to look at, because from the outside watching it, you're like, oh man, that's just like what we were. And then you start thinking, oh man, that makes me the old guy that was on the other side when we were doing what we were doing. But it was, so like, I started here, and Andrew Grisnick was here, Todd Garfield, not long after that is when you start getting Sean McInerney starts here. He gets his friend Ben a job.
I know all of these guys, so shout out to all these guys. I know them too. Yeah. They're all friends. Good group of guys.
Mm-hmm. Still talk to them all the time. Still hang out with them most of the time. Chris Owen. Shoot, who else? That's probably it for the big group as far as people that were around each other all the time. Evan McDonald. And then random people in here, here and there. So, yeah, so it kind of turns into, it's weird because it's the second job, but it's the job that I have, like, the best friends out of. Like, it's the one where, like, the connections were the closest, the quickest.
I'd use the analogy of almost like a fraternity. I wasn't in a fraternity in college, but I imagine that's what it was like. You know, you become almost like brothers.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably a pretty good. That's a good one for that. But yeah, and I think it also helps that the one thing with like teaching's awesome. I work with some great people, but you're not in a cubicle, but you're in your own classroom. So it's like everybody's separated by their own little sections, right? Whereas here, like, you have to interact. You're interacting with everybody all the time, and you're able to constantly communicate. So the connections you make are just a little bit different. Just kind of the way that the relationship becomes
more professional.
Yeah. So, which also, again, like I said, I have awesome teaching friends also. But
I want to ask you a question about those guys. One of the things when I had Robbie Becker on, who we worked in the cart barn together, that I wish I would have asked because I wanted to tell some of those stories and I forgot. Tell me some of the things you guys would do on your downtime. Did you guys play games or did you guys have what was going on when we were really slow?
Oh man.
And some of it you're probably embarrassed about or shouldn't have been doing, but that's okay. Let's hear them.
So when there was grass on the range, that was pretty good because you could do a lot of like driving and drifting with the golf carts on the side hills when it was actually wet out there.
Yeah.
Where you could probably do that now, but you would almost definitely tip the cart and get hurt. Whereas with the grass, not so much. Or actually, you probably could have in the grass. We were just weren't thinking about it that way, so it's probably better that that's not there anymore.
When that was the way that was, back then they were mounded greens. There were 3-4 greens out there, and they had bunkers around them, sand traps, and we would sit right there at the bay in the return area and just hit balls right off the cement and compete on who could hit balls closer on the greens.
Yeah, and that kind of happened for a little while again after that too, but now there's a sign that says we can't do that. So
definitely not. Don't do that. Not a good practice.
Disclaimer: don't do that.
Yeah, something that I haven't admitted in a long time.
Man, so there was like, I mean, we set up buckets and have like little just ball tossing competitions, and you'd have spaces in the back where you could have like little chipping competitions where you were just trying to go to like have it bounce like so many times into a certain panel, or just something where it's just
and that's creating those bonds. I think that's fun. Well, I don't know which one I want to get to first, but it doesn't matter. We'll get to the other one. Tell me about how you end up moving to high school teaching.
So I was at Fremont for a few years, and then after that I went to Sawyer Middle School, and I was at Sawyer for, I want to say 4 years, but I think it was 5. It all starts to run together after a while. But great time there. Worked with some awesome people, great kids, and kind of getting to that point where starting to look at other things kind of as to what to kind of do to not burn out.
Yeah.
And what winds up happening is, so we hired a teacher in my same department that year that was newer, and our student population was lower than it needed to be to keep all the teachers we had, so we go through what we call surplus. And my principal at the time had the conversation with me knowing that we just got this new guy in the department, and he was doing great. Like he had his first couple of months, he was awesome. He could tell that that's what he did. He needed to be doing that. And usually the way surplus works is they just take the most inexperienced person, they put them back in the job pool, and they just go pick another job somewhere else. But what winds up happening is had the discussion with the principal as to knowing that I kind of wanted to try to move up to high school or something to kind of at least change things up a little bit. And looking at it, we saw quite a few high school jobs open, and we didn't think there were going to be as many social studies positions that were trying to go after them, because a lot of those positions, usually social studies teachers were there for a while. So like we're usually one of the more tenured. Yeah, in a school. So once we're there, we're usually there for a while, unless there's a reason for them not to be there. So what ends up happening is we decide that I'll be the one that goes into surplus, and I didn't wind up catching one of those original high school jobs, so I go up to Von Tobel Middle School for the rest of the school year, and then when the transfer period comes up, start looking at other jobs and kind of opportunities. So I was looking at like Bonanza, Palo Verde, Centennial, stuff over here. I mean, obviously convenience to home was a thing that I wanted. But just with reputation alone, they're good high schools. They're places that you would want to be. Heard about good community there. Bonanza thing, almost all of those guys, anybody that was from Vegas, of those guys that we worked with at Angel Park, went to Bonanza.
All
High
of us
School.
went to Bonanza.
Yeah, like it was the place to be at that time. And then as the city continued to grow, then Palo gets built, and then zoning differences and so forth and so on. But anyway, what ends up happening is I wound up getting the Palo job. And yeah, like I wound up being happy getting there.
How soon do you think about coaching the golf team, or do you get asked, or do you ask to do it, or?
Not right away, no. Like I didn't even think of that as an aspiration. Mainly because I knew they were good, and I'm going in. I have no golf coaching experience before that in any way whatsoever. So like other than just kind of working with like junior clubs and kind of helping out with like junior camps, not clubs, but things like that to just kind of hopefully help youth golf out, right? But
Right, which is one of the things Andrew does.
Yeah, which is so getting in there. The nice thing is when you're a new teacher at a high school, they will immediately, where can you help out? Because there's lots of stuff going on at a high school all the time. And at some point, people don't want to keep on doing all of the activities, even if they still like the activities. So I got into basketball right away when I was there. The softball coach working there, Kelly Glass, because during my middle school teaching years, I was a girls basketball coach in middle school most of that time. And what winds up happening is she asks if I coach anything, and I go, yeah, I coach girls basketball, and we just happen to be by the girls basketball coach. And she says, hey, it's your new JV coach or your new freshman coach or whatever, one of your new assistant coaches. Here you go. And I was like, okay, cool. So
that's fun.
I had a basketball coaching job on the very first meeting day, so that was awesome. And then I wound up actually helping her with softball that first year also, which was super fun. Also, again, I'm not good at baseball. I'm not good at softball. It's not really my thing. Throwing things is not my strong suit. But but no, it was awesome. Like it was a really nice way to get there and immediately have this feel of community. It was the immediately having somebody take interest in the fact that you are interested in doing stuff and getting you immediately involved in doing stuff was very cool. So that's when I knew that was going to be a good place for me to be, because there were good teachers there and it was a good environment. But as far as the golf coaching thing, I mean, that was 2014, 2015 when I started there, so it's been 7-8 years since then. Great school. They've won state since while I was there, with Brandon Bauman, who's been on here before, Juno Shimoto, who works in the golf shop here. He's my assistant now.
Oh, cool.
I mean, they've had some really good golfers go through there. Jack Trent was on that team. He plays the UNLV. The guys that have aspirations to actually go and do something with the game.
Players.
Right? So yeah. So they've had some really good players go through there. So again, at some point, I was kind of hoping that down the line, maybe I would assist with the coach that was in place there once I kind of got out of basketball, and then had more time to myself to kind of be able to focus in and make sure I was around the program a little bit and be able to get into the job. But what winds up happening is I get out of basketball sooner than I actually really thought I was going to at the time, because the thing you get stuck in when you're a coach is you always want to finish with the group that's there. But the thing is you're always refreshing the group with new blood in, right? So it's like, man, I love this freshman group. I want to finish with this freshman group. You get through the freshman group, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh man, these freshmen and sophomores we have right now, and these juniors, I've been working with them for so long. It's like, I can't leave before they're gone, right? And just like the bonds you wind up connecting with all those players, it's really tough to break those. And even when you do and you know it's the right time to do so, you're just like, even afterward, you kind of have that feeling of, oh man, I just kind of left these people alone. Like I just
you realize what they're feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not.
We've had a couple different people on this show talk about losing their coach in high school or college, and that being one of their biggest struggles.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, like as a coach, you don't want to do that, because I mean, the sport is awesome. All the stuff you do is great. It's just you wind up building some really good connections with some people, and like there's some of my former players like still keep in contact today. Like I still talk to a lot of them like through whatever, right? So, and yeah, I mean some of the bonds you have with them is so great.
So you finally pull out.
I get out of the basketball program. I start helping Tyler Marchant with our tennis program, which is awesome. Like, I'm there just to be there. They are great.
You got a lot of good teams.
Yeah, they win state frequently. Both boys and girls won it this last year. Year before, girls won it. Guys got second. Year before that, both of them won it. Well, other than 2020 gap year, obviously. But yeah, so being in there for that, being around that's been awesome. But then, so I have the rest of the year that's kind of open. And this last fall, the boys' golf job became available. And like I said, I was hoping to be able to assist with it for a little while before trying for it. But at the same time, it's like, well, I guess I don't get that opportunity, but I've got to try for this job because I want it.
Right.
Since college and since high school, kind of told you like that between junior and senior year, really picked up interest in the golf and taking it more seriously. And then probably taking it way too seriously a lot of the time there in the middle. But I think a lot of people take it way too seriously there in the middle.
But that's a common theme.
That's common for golf. But wind up getting to a point where I've kind of get out of that and realize a lot of like the outside stuff about golf. That's not just the performance stuff of golf. And go and interview for the job with I think the right perspective. It's good that the job didn't come open probably 4 or 5 years earlier because I don't think I thought about the performance in the game the same way that I do now. So I think that mindset switch kind of helped me in the interview process and being able to kind of vocalize what I think of when I think of not just Palo Verde golf, but golf in general. So I think that kind of helped me get the job eventually this last, I think it was the end of January when I got like hired for it. And then we hit the ground running. We had like 2 weeks and that was intramural season. And then we had another 3 weeks and it was tryout season. I didn't have uniforms. I didn't have, Highland Falls was awesome to be able to stick around and give us the chance to be their home, have them as a home course for the meet season. But they had some prior obligations as far as, obligations, I guess I'll say, as to people that were going to be practicing there. And Angel Park was awesome and worked with me really closely in being able to set up a place where we could come and practice and be able to be. So kind of got to having both of my universes kind of collide a little bit, but like in a good way where I knew that my guys could be here, have a good place to practice because I practice here all the time. So I kind of know what we have to offer here. But also have great people around here as employees that I knew that were going to keep an eye out for them and make sure that no one's messing with them, but they're not doing something stupid and messing with the course.
That's fun and cool. Well, that's great. I hope, since you're so new into it, I wish you all the success, and I look forward to hearing updates about how that goes. That's cool. All right, let's get back to the guys because, Andrew, Sean, Ben, all of those dudes, you guys have turned golfing together into a travel sport and tradition, and tell me a little bit about maybe how that got started, maybe one or two of your favorite stories from those, because I know there are a lot of them.
There's some pretty good ones.
Yeah. Just talk about all that.
All right, so how long have we actually been doing this trip? It's been over 10 years. I can't remember the exact number. I know it's over 10. That we've gone up to Mesquite. We have a big Mesquite group. We go up there and we play Falcon Ridge. We play pretty much every year. It's pretty much a staple. Conestoga, we play a lot. We haven't played it the last couple of years. We've done Wolf Creek a couple of times. I don't think any of us. It's one of those really fun to see it, and it's a really good mental test, but it's also a really big mental test. So it's one of those that it doesn't really fit the vibe of the trip and the crew that we're looking to have it with. Awesome course, just not one of them that we frequent necessarily. But yeah, I mean we have we have a pretty good rotation up there. We've started incorporating a couple of the golf courses up in the St. George area because of how close St. George is to Mesquite. St. George golf is awesome also. Yeah, and we go up and we stay for a few days.
How competitive is it?
I think it depends on the person. It depends on the person in the year. Like, there's a pretty good point in time there where, like, how I played compared to everybody else mattered to me. And again, like those last 4 or 5 years, like that part's kind of dropped more as did I perform the way that I feel like I should just perform? And like, did I hold myself to the standard that I feel like I should hold myself to on this? And a lot of times it's a good group to kind of keep you relaxed and have a great time. There's a couple of guys that they definitely want to compete with everybody else and be on track with that, and they want to do better than everybody else. But for the most part, it's just go up and have a great time, man. Just you get to see some people that you don't necessarily get to see all the time. Once the crew stopped working together all the time, like those first few years, we'd see each other all the time here, and then we would go on the trip and we would just see each other, but like stay in the same hotel and go to the course and then stay in the same and then go to the same restaurant. Like it'd be a really tight weekend together, right? But then as people kind of space out and they start doing their own things, Sean moved away there for a couple of years. He would still try to make the trip back every now and then. He wouldn't make it every year, but he still was able to make it back from when he lived in LA. Ben lived up in Reno for a little bit. Came back down for the trip a couple of times, I think. And then that actually winds up, when we have those branch outs, winds up bringing a lot of those people, like new people in. Sean going to LA brought in a few different people from his group there into the group, which was awesome.
That's fun.
Like they're so fun. They're so the attitude they have is so cool. Once Andrew left here, he went into teaching, and he met a few different teacher friends that really kind of fit the vibe of that group. So they wind up coming into there every now and then. One of them's a pretty big regular. One of them moved away off to the East Coast. Yeah, I mean it's loud. It's
Well, I'm gonna get straight to the juice, and I don't name names because
Right.
we won't embarrass you. You'll know who he's talking about, but I know at least in the early years, I don't know how it's grown and changed or evolved, but in the early years, you guys could get a little sloppy at night, and
yeah, they could. That's one of the things about
I want to
being
hear
the older
one of the
the
good
group.
stories or something.
Right. So being the older one of the group, I generally get to kind of observe, like, a lot of it, because I'm probably like, I want to say the group dad. I'm not that much older than everybody else.
No, you're the older brother.
I'm the older brother. We'll go with that. That'll make me feel better, but I'm sure I'm going to get called the dad after this. No, like, so, God, this is only a couple years back. One of the guys was on a really good hot run at, like, craps and blackjack, and he was doing really well at the Casablanca. And this is between our first and second nights there. So we played our first round. We got there, showered, had dinner and whatnot, and then that evening doing all the gambling. And he's just going. Like, he's on a hot streak. He's had a bunch.
Yeah, he's pounding drinks.
saying he's had a few is not fair. He's had a bunch. And a lot of the groups had a bunch by that point. And so he's playing all night, like, literally. Wake up the next morning, get down there.
He's still playing.
And he's sitting at the table still wearing what he was wearing the night before. And I go, dude, we leave to the golf course in like 20 minutes. It's like, I'm going to go get you a coffee, or you just need to go to bed. Like, there's one or the other. Like, I don't know if you should even come. It's like, no, I got this. And so he winds up actually riding in the cart with me. So I get grouped with him in the group, which is great because I mean, he's awesome. I do love him. But so
How's this round go?
I mean, he was barely standing up on the first tee box. Like, it was pretty impressive. This was at Falcon Ridge, so it was pretty impressive that he actually even I think he parred the first hole. I think he actually played pretty well for the first couple. He was playing pretty good there for a little bit. And then I think it was the third green is when he pretty much let it all out. Like,
Not on the green, I hope.
Nope, it was thankfully
just
it was
in the rough, right off the
there's
side.
a couple of spots where there's like drains walking there, and he happened to be close enough to a drain and know it was coming enough to be able to get over to the drain and let it go. And then I drank a whole lot of Gatorade the rest of that day.
Yeah, I can imagine.
He made it through. He played actually really good. Like, that's the craziest thing about it. Is just I don't know how he functioned, let alone did something while functioning at that capacity, right? So there's that. We've had where sometimes people kind of break away from the group and kind of sometimes come back. Somehow they walked to another casino for a while or another restaurant or a bar or whatever. They come back and they're telling you a story about the place they were just at, and you realize that's not on premises. What are you talking about? And then they talk, and then they tell you. And had times where golf courses close really early there anyway. They close around 2:30, 3 o'clock or something like that. But like at 1 o'clock in the morning, driving over to a golf course, to their driving range, just taking their stuff out and just shooting all of their golf balls out on the driving range just because.
So you went and played. You went and hit balls on the driving range in the middle of the night.
I did not, but somebody else in the group did do that.
That's awesome.
So they had to buy a bunch of golf balls the next day because they used their entire supply on the driving range in the dark when they couldn't possibly see, because it's not like ours where it's lit. It's dark as heck. So yeah, they go out there and they can't find theirs, and I mean just lots of different things where someone falls asleep early, you go mess with them in their room. Just lots of stuff where
that's fun.
Yeah, just kind of stuff to kind of remind you that stuff doesn't have to be serious all the time. It's a good just kind of break away
for sure.
Decompress trip for pretty much everybody.
If I was their age, when I was their age, I was doing the same thing. So I love those guys.
That's and I just don't think I could keep up with that. I think that's why I don't do that stuff, because I don't physically think I can. It's like I think about like more than 2 drinks and I start thinking, man, I'm going to get achy. I'm going to get heartburn. No thanks.
That's fun. Tell us a little bit about your golf viewing habits. Do you watch a lot of golf? Do you have favorite players or favorite tournaments to watch?
Yeah, I'll watch the majors pretty much anytime they're on. So whatever major is on, I'll try and catch as much of it as I can, just because of the weight of it, but some of the bigger events, like week to week, I'll watch certain ones just because I like the course. Like I like watching anything with Spieth. JT's fun. Scheffler's on an amazing roll right now. He is so fun to watch. Just see that he can do stuff.
He's into about 15, 16 months now.
Yeah. Yeah, like he hasn't finished outside the top 12 in like 16 consecutive starts, I think they said. Something like that. Somewhere around that stat. Crazy. And, Rory, just watching Rory swing is great. Like I said with Scheffler, it's fun watching him golf, but his swing hurts my head because of all the foot movement. It's like it's one where it's awesome to watch what he can accomplish, but it's not one where you sit there thinking, I wonder if I could do. You can't do that.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I would absolutely break my foot.
Yeah, that he can do that and be the best ball striker on tour.
Consistently.
It's really interesting. What are some of your? Do you have anything that you would change about golf, or do you have like a least favorite thing about golf?
I like how quickly a lot of people picked up the game when we were closed for pandemic. Well, when a lot of places were closed for pandemic, but golf courses were pretty open, so it gave availability for people for something to do. I love the availability of it, and I love what it offers for people. But I think they start hitting balls without knowing all the different stuff you should really know about the game, like knowing certain rules about the game, just etiquette in general, how to take care of the course. Like I think if you could find ways to make those more common knowledge without making it inaccessible, yeah. Like you don't want it to be where you're saying, well, you can golf, but you have to do this first, right? Like you want it to be where they understand the value of those things and they want to take it with the game, not that they feel like it's a mandatory thing that they have to do when they play the game, right? So you want it to be something that is, I guess, intrinsic, but it's tough to make something intrinsic. You're like competing with somebody's personality, which in a lot of cases doesn't work that way, especially with the number of people that started playing. Like you're not going to catch that. Yeah,
Kevin Swain, the general manager over at Durango Hills, he's been on the show, and what he said the same answer, and he actually had an idea. I don't think he's started it yet. So Kevin, I know you watch these. I'll even help you. He wants to start a lot of his content for Durango Hills and maybe YouTube on 30-second, minute and 30-second, just tips like that. You know, it's not really couth to bring your clubs into the golf shop to check in, that type of stuff.
Right.
Repairing ball marks and that, just things that would probably, once they got started, could go viral because even the new golfers, they still want to learn everything about golf. Mm-hmm. Every new golfer we have on here has been, I think they find the right line of they want to break traditions a little bit, but they want to be respectful and keep some of the traditions. So that's what I think is fun about it. That's my favorite thing about doing this show and talking to golfers is me coming from a purist background and family, and always wanting to change it and loosen it up and be more accessible is been my goal. So that's my favorite thing. But this show's not about me. What's your favorite thing about golf?
It just teaches you so much stuff. Like you really have to you have to learn how to deal with highs and lows. Like just like anything in life, you have to learn to deal with highs and lows, right? So like crappy stuff's going to happen, right? Like in life or in golf, you have like a day like yesterday.
You didn't play well yesterday?
Well, that's the thing. I played really well, but I didn't score really well because I just couldn't quite get the last little bit there. Like, you have a bad bounce here. You get a bad lie there. You think you hit a putt perfect, and it just catches the edge and it lips out, right? Like, you have all these different things that kind of add up, and it's easy to get that weight feeling, like you just feel heavy and you feel like you're just trying to fight your way out of it, as opposed to just understanding that it's going to pass. Like, not every bounce is going to be a bad bounce. Not everything that happens to you is going to be a bad thing. Just your perspective in the moment makes it feel like every bounce is going to be a bad bounce. Everything is going to be a bad thing. But at the same time, like when you hit like an amazing shot, right? It's awesome to feel excited about that and enjoy that. It's unrealistic to set that as your example as to now everything's going to be that. Right.
Well, hitting the pure shot is the drug. And,
yeah.
And yeah, chasing that drug, like any drug, chasing that high will frustrate the hell out of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, and then when you're like taking that out and you put it into real life, like say you're making a sports bet and you win big on something. That's awesome. That's not the norm. Casinos are rich for reasons.
Right.
You're not going to beat them on that system, right? Even people that sports bet as a living, they'll do well. Casino probably still has a lot of their money, right? So you have those types of things. You have promotions are great. Doesn't mean that you're going to immediately get promoted to the next thing or immediately. So kind of wherever it is you get, understand what got you there, work with that, hopefully make it so that's closer to the consistent thing, and then hopefully you can move on to the next step. And I think that kind of translates from golf and then into regular life.
Yeah,
too.
you make golf analogous to life and lessons. I think that's one of my favorite answers to that question, because I think a lot of people do that. This was fun, Justin.
Yeah.
It's time for the second part of the show. We call it our par 5. We're going to play... basically, we're going to ask the same 5 questions to every guest at the end of the show. Are you ready to tee it up?
I think so.
Question number 1. What's your favorite golf movie?
Oh, that's tough between Happy Gilmore and Tin Cup. I love both of those movies. I'm going to go Happy Gilmore just because there's a lot more out of it that I quote, that the people in the group quote.
It's very quotable. That and Caddyshack are the 2 most quotable, for sure.
How am I going to putt with that going on out there, Doug, is one of the best. Jeff Reskowitz uses that all the time. I love when he uses that. He's like, how am I supposed to putt with that going on in the background, Doug? And I love that.
That's fun. Question number 2. What's your favorite club in your bag and why?
God, it used to be my 56, but I've been struggling with that a little bit lately, and that's because I can use it for pretty much anything 120 in. Like, literally, I could putt with it if I wanted to. Man, I'd say my putter, honestly. Like, I feel I get myself back to a decent scoring space in a lot of rounds just for the fact that, for the most part, I get feels for speeds pretty quick. So I feel like the putter actually keeps me in a lot of games that I don't necessarily... keep myself in off the tee box.
6 months into this show, I think, and I hope I don't offend anybody who said it on an earlier episode, but I think you might be the first person that said putter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love my putter.
That's awesome. I like that. It definitely hasn't been brought up a lot.
No, because I think the thing with it is like I walk to greens thinking to myself, here's a scoring chance, not as opposed to what can go wrong with this shot. right? Like I think off of a box, you're like, okay, what am I shooting away from and hoping for the best for? As opposed to when I get on the green, I'm thinking, is this something I can make in, or is it something I'm just going to pop close and tap in? And either way, I'm going to come out of here with something fairly decent, hopefully, provided I didn't get myself into a bunch of trouble before that.
Right. Question number 3, my favorite question. What's your dream foursome? You get 3 players, alive or dead. Who are you going to go play golf with? And then where are you going to go play? Which course?
I mean, Tiger, because you got to see Tiger play.
That's our most common answer.
Yeah, I mean, you want to see Tiger play live for sure. Man, that is a tougher question. I would go with Bill Murray because I think that would be really fun.
He hasn't been said
good.
yet, and that's a great answer.
He's
good.
He's
so
hilarious.
Funny on the golf course and funny in general.
Yeah, like, I mean, and just even so, there's a couple of golf podcasts I listen to, and they were talking about when they were at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am and him in the crowds, and he knows that he knows his shtick.
He's
right?
famous for it.
Right, he knows what the people are there to see, and he doesn't shy away from it because he knows that's why they came there, right? That's a big part of why they came there. It's not the exact only reason, but it's a big part. So I think he's awesome for that.
Last one.
I think my dad, so that way I could actually have someone to talk about how awesome it is playing with the other two.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a good time. I mean, he's obviously the guy that gets me into the game. And
Dad and Tiger are hands down the 2 most common. But there's almost always a new one and a funny one and an interesting one. So that's cool. Thank you for that.
You bet.
Question number 4. What's your aiming fluid? What are you drinking when you're out on the golf course?
I mean, it's so dang hot out here. I'm generally just drinking a ton of water. I drink my energy drinks a lot. Try not to drink them during the round because then they start to get me a little bit jittery.
The shakes? Yeah.
Well, because you know me, I smoke cigars when I golf. So the combination of nicotine and caffeine can really kind of get you kind of going a little bit faster than you want to get, especially in something where you're trying to slow the process down in your head and keeps everything nice and focused. So
how many cigars do you think you smoke around?
2. I usually have one on the front 9, one on the back 9, generally.
Yeah.
Which is probably not the best of health habits, but at the same time, I mean, it's
most of us have a vice.
Most of us have a vice.
Yeah.
Mine is more so like when I have like the swing fluid thing. Mine actually is usually after rounds. I just have a thing where I don't necessarily drink during rounds very much, but I mean, it's hard to go wrong with a rum and Coke. Like I like a good Captain or Sailor, something dark spiced, and usually Diet Coke.
Cool. Yeah. Question number 5, the last question, the end of the show. When you hit a bad shot, do you have a word or phrase that you go to a lot more than others?
Well, I kind of have a couple. So, I mean, it's either just a general F-bomb.
Yep.
Just a straight. Or where it switches over to just essentially just talking to myself. Like I am I don't know about notorious, but I have a couple people I know I talk to myself all the time, and they give me crap for it fairly often. So the amount of times, like sometimes they'll start it for me. Like I'll hit the bad shot, and they'll go, "Oh, Justin, what the hell?" And it's like, "Yeah, that's it." And then I was like, I got to walk to this next shot because I got to finish that conversation, and then just kind of sit there and talk to myself, and then hopefully by the time I get to the ball, it's the, "Come on, dip, realize this isn't that hard. It's just golf.
Yeah.
Just swing the club, man."
Yeah.
Stop trying, just do. Like that's generally, and then one that Andrew Grisnick has given me a lot lately has just been just do less, man. Just do less. And,
that's a good one.
It helps. That one and Wes Diedrich, he gives me, he's like middles, man. Just aim for the middles and stuff. Stop going for pins. Stop aiming on edges thinking it's going to cut or fade or draw or whatever you're trying to get it to do, because whenever you're trying to get it to do it, a lot of times it doesn't do it. So just go to the middles because it's hard to be wrong if you go to the middles. So.
Middles, another analogy to life.
Yeah.
Go to the middles.
Go to the middle.
Thank you, Justin.
You bet.
So much fun.
That was
I was
a good time.
looking forward to this one, and it was great. Thank you for watching. We will see you next week. And until next time, hit 'em straight from your friends at Angel Park Golf Club. Cheers.